You can build your home on my words. I'll stay right here where I'm welcome. You can build your home on my words. I'm staying.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is a series called New Church, and it was birthed out of an idea that I had as I realized since COVID, things were going to be different, and I didn't know what that meant. I believe that the church is us, it's the people and not the building. And since we haven't been able to meet in the building, I've started to see some really cool and new things happening within churches. But I do believe that the church globally has to move and arise in a different way. So I have invited some friends of mine from my time in Indiana, which is where I'm from, to talk with me about that today. So they're just going to give a short intro, and then we'll kind of dive right into a couple questions. Tiffany?
Hi, everyone. I am Tiffany Rogers. I am a therapist in Chicago. I am brand new to the field of counseling, but really excited to be here and to share in this conversation.
I am Annie Wood-Bell, and I am a licensed clinical social worker in Anderson, Indiana, where I serve as a private practitioner, as a therapist to primarily adults, couples, and families. And I also speak and lead workshops and trainings around issues of trauma-informed care, on coaching skills and practice, and other mental health related issues.
My name is Jazmyn Nichols, and I am also from Indiana, but I currently live in Virginia. And I graduated in 2018 with my master's degree in human services and a concentration in counseling. And after that, I did work as a QMHP doing mental health skill building in the community. And now my full-time profession is being a mom.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much for sharing. And y'all followed the rules and then I didn't. So I said I'm from Indiana, but I now live in Jackson, Mississippi. And so I've been here since 2015. And I am a licensed master social worker, praying to start the road to licensed clinical social worker very soon. So thank y'all so much again for tuning in, and thank you, my friends from Indiana, for joining me for just some conversations. So the first question that we kind of talked about was, what has COVID revealed to you all personally? That can be whatever you take that question to mean, and anybody can go.
I can start. I think it's a really loaded question. So much has been revealed to me in this time, and I'll say personally, it came at a time of like a really big transition for me. So I finished grad school in March, and had just completed my clinical training, basically the week before the whole city of Chicago went on lockdown. So I was expecting to kind of hit the ground running with my career and do lots of things, get lots of things moving after completing this like really difficult master's program and feeling really proud of my accomplishment. And everything stopped, literally everything stopped. And I'm really grateful that I was able to get finished with my program and finish my clinical training right before that happened. But all the things that I thought I would be doing during this time are not things that I'm doing. I'm happy to be working and to be working virtually. But of course, it's not anything that I expected. And one of the things that I kind of realized in that is while I intended to have this super fast pace and to move really quickly onto my next goal, I really have needed and appreciated the rest that came with this time of slowing down. It's been really, really eye-opening to me. And I'm reminded that, while the world is on pause, and I had to take a pause, even though I didn't want to, I needed the pause. And so now as things are kind of starting to open back up in the next few weeks, I'm thinking about what do I really want my pace to be? Not what do I feel like it has to be, or what is a pace that society wants to put on me, my career wants to put on me, like what is a pace that I want for me, what feels comfortable. I've spent a lot of time thinking about the things that bring me joy and make me happy, and even things like the amount of rest that I need per night to feel really great and like I'm functioning at my best. Those are all things I wouldn't have known without this forced slowdown. So I'm feeling really grateful for it, and I'm feeling really, I'd say cautious about how I rush back into responsibilities, I want to make sure that I remember that I get to set my pace and my rhythm, and that is mine alone, that I can resist the pressure to move faster than I want to have a jam-packed schedule and a really full day. And if I need to just keep more space in my life, that's something that I get to decide. So I wasn't really happy when all of this started, and at the end of it, I'm feeling really grateful and happy about what it's shown me about me and what I need for myself.
Yeah, that's awesome, Tiffany. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, rest has been a big one for me as well. And I like the way you put it, learning how to set your own pace now, without the pressures of having to do things or feeling like you have to do things, because that's just the way that society has made it seem like you should do it. So yeah, those are really good points. I would say the same for me.
Okay. I don't know if I've really had any personal revelations. I think that there were a lot of things that I was already going through and experiencing in my own personal life that was already bringing me, kind of like preparing me, I guess, for this season. Really preparing me. So I feel like when everything happened, it only revealed to me that I'd already been being prepared for this moment, if that makes sense. When it all started, I'm like, whoa, like, okay. I had already left work. Like I felt like I should, leave work. So I had already, left my job. We were already talking about taking my daughter out of daycare to do homeschooling, homeschool preschool. And I had already ordered everything for homeschool preschool. And I was just like, man, how am I going to tell our teachers that I'm pulling her out? And I'd already set everything up to kind of do that. So I really feel, as though I was already being prepared for everything. And the only thing that's really different at home is that now my husband is working from home. But not to say I haven't come to a lot of realizations about myself and about a lot of different things around me, but I wouldn't necessarily credit that to COVID-19. So I don't know if I answered the question. But yeah, it just, I guess COVID-19 revealed to me that whatever is coming, I'll be ready. Even if I don't realize I'm ready until something happens, things will work out and I'll be ready.
Yeah, you answered the question, Jazmyn. That was good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And that's I'm not gonna say it's crazy, because we believe in a God that does some things that I would call crazy. But it's not crazy because it's normal for him. But that you kind of already had moved in the direction of what a lot of people did as a reaction. You were a little proactive in that. That's really cool.
Even to the point of, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, even to the point that, like, at the end of last year, our church went on a sabbatical. Our entire ministry went on a sabbatical, and we were not meeting. We were only meeting via Zoom. And so when everything happened, it was like, oh, we'd already been doing this. Like, So it was really wild. Like, it just revealed to me that, I'm God prepares us for things even when we don't know that He's preparing us. So yeah, it was wild, but that was all.
That's really cool. I have never heard of a whole church going on sabbatical, but it sounds awesome.
I love that, Jazmyn. That's really cool. That experience. I think even if we don't have that current experience, it can remind us of when that's happened in our life other times and lean into that. So thank you for that reminder. Because I think I've probably fought against pre-COVID what messages I was kind of hearing. I kind of just fought against them. And then it was like, oh, okay, I need to listen to that more, because it's a forced, I think for some people, and for me, speaking for myself, it is a forced rest and a forced slow down, stay home, look at the people around you, whether, even if you live alone, what neighborhood do you live in? Do you live next to somebody? Who do you really have in your life? So for me, the beginning of it actually was really refreshing. Kind of like what you're talking about, Tiffany. It was very refreshing. I was spending a lot more time with my kids. I basically worked near full time, about 30 to 35 hours a week, and have multiple jobs. And so that was really wearing, and being able to stay home, some things getting canceled, actually was really helpful. I would take hour-long lunch breaks, and I'd go on walks outside in the middle of the day. And I was feeling like I needed to do that pre-COVID, but I was not doing that. And an interesting thing that I've found in the last couple of weeks, and probably last month now, has been I can still get wrapped back up in my old patterns that are not helpful to me, that are not as effective and healthy. I can become a workaholic at home, and I can avoid being around my family at home, and I can be irritable and easily angered, and all those things that happened before that I'm kind of like, okay. So that's the main thing. I'm kind of like, what do I need to lean into? Kind of what Jazmyn was saying. What do I need to listen to and change? Because I can figure it out wherever I am, both for the good and for, the unhealthy for me, at least. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
But when you all were talking, I was like, oh man, like it really reminds me of Psalm 23. Right? Like He leads us beside the still water. He maketh us to lie down in the green pastures. Because for some of us, we have to be made to lie down. Like I am the type of person I have to be made to lie down. And my fiance
Yes.
pointed this out for me. Like the moment I would remove one thing that was making me so busy and tired, I would replace it like almost instantly. It's like, oh, I got Friday free now. So you want me to do a worship night on Friday? Sure, I can do that. And it's like, oh crap, I'm busy again. Oh no, how did this happen? And it's like, it could be at my regular job, taking extra shifts, or it could be me leading a worship night, or me starting a Bible study. And it's just like, golly, just as important as worship through music is, or prayer groups, or like Bible studies is, God wants me to rest, like period. He really does want me to rest. So that has been the biggest thing for me, is resting and realizing that that's okay. I felt really guilty at first when it first happened, because I was like, I should be doing something, and and I was just finding stuff to do, like, oh, because both of my jobs were paying me to be home and not do anything, and I just was like, this is weird, like I need to do something. And I felt guilty for a long time, until finally God was like, Jalise, if you don't rest, it's gonna come back around where you're gonna have to jump back up and do things again. But I want to show you some things now, like while you're able to sit still and heighten your awareness. Me and Tiffany were talking about that before we started. Like, look around. Annie, you kind of mentioned that too. Look at your neighbors. Look to the left and to the right of you. Look before you, look behind you. What's going on around you? You cannot busy yourself to the point that you can't see what I'm doing or hear what I'm saying. And that's what's been really encouraging for me. So the nation, though, has taken quite a bit of a turn. And, you know, initially when we talked about doing this together, when we initially talked about it, I can't remember if Ahmaud's death had already occurred. If it had, I had not yet heard of it. I'm not into the news as much. And then I don't get on social media enough to find things until they've gotten really big. So I've kind of been like lagging in those regards. And even more recently, and I wrote his name down, I feel like I forgot, the young man who just passed away in Minneapolis. Well, he didn't pass away, he was murdered. What's his name?
Sean Green?
George Floyd.
George Floyd, thank you.
Minneapolis. Sorry, I heard Indianapolis.
Yeah.
It's sad that it's got to be like, oh, which one was it?
Yeah.
That's the, like,
Right.
it's hard.
Yeah, so in a sense, it's like COVID caused this devastation to the nation that hasn't been a nation around the world. This has been a pandemic that has touched and affected everybody in some ways or another. You got billion-dollar companies or million-dollar companies having to like shut their doors and weren't able to do business at all, and that has sparked so many like acts of grace. Like I've seen so many people like, oh, it's okay. They'll forgive you for certain things, like if you're late, or they'll give you refunds a lot easier. Like that kind of stuff is happening a lot more surrounding COVID. But then when you think about these, they're calling them Black lynches now, and I think it's appropriate, even though it's such a harsh terminology. You know, you want people to see it and feel it for what it is. So that's been happening for a very long time and has affected a lot of people. And yet, you know, you're not seeing the same type of responses with that. And it almost just feels like too much, right? Like, oh, another thing to add to what's already going on. So our nation, I think, is being called to light as well. What do you guys think about that? Like, what's being revealed about our nation right now?
My daughter is trying to come in the room, so if y'all hear a little person coming, it's her. But I think it's sad on so many levels. There's a quote, I don't know if it's a quote that Will Smith actually said, but people are crediting this quote to him. And it is basically saying racism isn't getting worse, it's just being filmed. And I completely agree. I think that it's not that it's like, oh my goodness, where is all this coming from? And so many different things that people blame it on. And I'm like, no, it's been here. It's just that now now we walk around with cameras.
Oh, yeah.
And there's still
Truly.
things happening all the time that are not being caught on camera. These are just the things that we're seeing now because of social media, because of smartphones. You know, now there's proof, like there's stories to be told. But unfortunately, I don't think that it's new. However, I will say that it is new to people that are not people of color. I feel like it is like, wow, you know, this is real. You know, this is real. And I'm so thankful every single time I have a conversation with somebody that's not a person of color. I thank them because I'm like, I thank you because you don't have to have, you have the privilege to not have to have this conversation with me. You don't have to talk about this. I don't know, it just means so much. Every single time I see somebody that is not a person of color, you know, post something or share something, I tell them, I will message them. I'll make sure I say thank you. Because for me, I guess what it has revealed, and I don't know if COVID revealed this, but with everything that's going on, I think that it is revealing to a lot of people of color this is just my opinion, okay? So I'm saying my opinion. Hopefully it's,
Yeah.
I don't, and I used to be so vocal on issues like this, and I still am, but not as much, because I don't feel like the ball is in my court. I'm like, people know how Black people feel. We know how we feel. Okay, so I post something and I get the Black people to applaud and agree. I post something, you know, and I'm just like, yes, my white friends will see it and stuff like that. Yes, but I truly feel like the ball is not in our court. I feel like for me, and especially clergy and other people that are not people of color, I feel like the ball is in their court, because I'm like, you get to be in rooms that I can't be in. You get to sit at tables that I'm not invited at.
Yes.
And I feel like the answer is not to fight down here. We have to fight at very high levels. And so, you know, I this is why I'm so thankful for those. I saw a picture, and it was a picture of, you know, Black people were protesting, and there was a line of, you know, white people protecting that line of Black protesters.
Wow.
And that was so powerful to me.
I like that.
Because even when I think about the civil rights movement would have been unsuccessful without white people. It's just, and that's not me saying that, you know, Black people are powerless or anything like that. And it's, I could talk so much to this, so I don't want to talk too much. But I think that we all have to work together. And I think that is being revealed. That it is not one against this person, because the narrative that has created all of this and the history that created all of this, it doesn't benefit anybody.
Nobody, yeah.
It doesn't, you know, Black people wake up afraid, you know, and that doesn't benefit us. But I think I'm like, how does it feel to be so many white people of my white friends who come to me saying sorry? And I'm like, it sucks to feel like your history is always on the side where you're the villain. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair that Black people, you know, feel like victims. And I don't think it's fair that white people have to feel like villains. And that's just how I feel, because there were white people in the civil rights movement. Not everybody was a slave, but see, I feel like the narrative, there's so many lies in the narrative. And it's just, to me, I feel like the enemy just wants to divide and conquer. Keep them against one another. Separate them. Put them against one another, because at the beginning, and again, I'm a Christian, so at the beginning of everything, God, he told mankind to rule the earth. To rule the earth, to increase and multiply, take dominion of the earth. We will never be able to do that if we're not unified. Amen. Instead of ruling the earth and taking dominion, you know, and bringing heaven's culture down to earth, what we end up doing, we want to dominate one another. You're superior, I'm inferior. Now we have to get our power back, and we have to. But that was just never the point. The point was to bring heaven's culture here. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying it has to be anybody else's, but I feel like it puts everybody at a disadvantage. I think about the cops who end up pulling the trigger and they don't even realize. I don't think that they wake up in the morning like, I want to kill a Black person. Now, do I believe that there is like covert racism and different things? Absolutely. Yeah. But I don't even think that they realize that they're afraid. We're afraid, but they're afraid, and they don't even know why. Right. They don't even know why. I think about the girl that was killed, I think it was last year. She was just at home, and somebody saw her door open, so they did a wellness check that the cops would come. And they saw this Black woman in her house, and they killed her. That's fear. Philando Castile, you know, you're giving him instructions. He's following the instructions. And as he reaches down, you shoot him. That is fear. They're afraid too, because of the lies in the narrative. And it doesn't benefit anybody at all. And it is sad. And I think that the only thing is for us to come together. And I think that right now, people are realizing okay, I need to listen. Not only do I need to listen to my Black brothers and sisters, but as African Americans, we need people that are not of color. We need their help in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, so anyway, that's just my bit on it.
Yeah, don't throw your hands up like that. That is absolutely what I believe has been revealed in this time as well. You know, to ask the question, what is the Lord revealing about the nation? And then what is the Lord revealing about the church? I just think it's all the same. The church just has to be the leader and the charge. And I don't think that COVID in and of itself has revealed anything. I believe that God has used COVID to reveal things to us. Unfortunately. And so my heart goes out to the families that have been impacted by this particular tragedy of COVID-19. But my heart goes out to the families who have been continuously impacted by the Black lynching. And my heart goes out to people who have been impacted by cancer. Like, there are so many things that plague our world today. Jazmyn, you're absolutely right. If we don't come together, there is no dominion, there is no victory that we can have. And I love how you put it. Like, we can't let the narrative continue to be victim and villain. We're not going to get anywhere. We're literally not going to get anywhere. And so, as simple as it may sound, love is absolutely the answer. Divide and conquer is the devil's oldest trick, and he's still using it. Like, and it bothers me that it's still happening. But it's so easy to feed into the narrative and to hate, and to mask our hate. I mean, to mask our fear with hate, because that's exactly it. Okay. No, I could talk for days. Annie or Tiff, would y'all like to, kind of tag in? Because I'm just amening you, Jazmyn.
Well, I'm sorry that I missed a lot. I had a connection issue, but I don't know. I mean, I think that I am currently in a real state of grief over where we are. And I think I've had to be really honest about naming that experience for myself. It is grief. And I think because we are all in a slowdown of sorts, though it looks different for everyone, we're all in a slowdown. And I think so often we use busyness as an excuse to look away and to just keep moving. And so I feel like, these repeated instances of just murder and injustice against Black and brown people is highlighted in a really painful way. And we can't look away, I was sharing this yesterday on social media and with some people that I was talking with, just around the idea that, like, even when you're not thinking about what's happening on a conscious level, all that stuff that we take in really stays with us. And so yesterday I had a really, really tough day, and I had taken in the news and all the news that came before that. And I kept finding myself feeling so sad yesterday. And I had a day full of clients, and I kept, in every moment that I had to just breathe, I kept finding tears in my eyes. And I had to just say, like, okay, Tiffany, this is grief. And whether or not you are going to process it and to take time to unpack it, like, this is grief that's coming up and needs to be expressed. And in having that experience for myself, I had to reflect on the ways that non-people of color may not have that experience of grief and have the privilege of looking away. And so one of the things that I was sharing online is that, and I think you spoke to this so well, Jazmyn, it's like, we need people who, because of their social location, have privilege and power to not look away, to be able and willing to sit with the discomfort, the grief, the tension, all the stuff that it brings up, all the questions. I think that we're so often, like, trying to find an answer and rushing to a solution. And the reality of this is that there is no quick answer or solution. There are lots of big questions that we all have to explore and examine. And if we're not willing to hang in the discomfort of the questioning and the examining of our own hearts, our own experiences, our own privileges, our own power, our own marginalization, like, unless we're able to look at all of that, we're not getting anywhere, you know? And so I heard a little bit of what you were saying, Jazmyn, and I agree with what you were sharing about how this is not our fight alone. Our fight meaning people of color.
Yeah.
This is a fight where we really, really desperately need, and I almost find myself like, I feel like my heart cry is like begging people to care, begging people to pay attention, begging people to use their voices to speak, to inquire. And I had one of my best friends is a white woman, and she sent me a message, was checking in and was asking like, I don't understand everything I need to understand about this, but I want to. And so we had a conversation about, and I think, you know, I'll be really honest, this is probably not popular, and I don't know if you were expecting this, Jalise, but you know me, so I feel like the church is failing in lots of ways in this area, in the area of social justice. I don't think we're leading the charge in social justice, and I am deeply, deeply troubled and grieved by the ways that we are failing people that are not the standard or the norm. And I think racism is just the first ism that we're going to have to confront as a body. I think racism is first, right? But like all of the isms. And I think working with people really closely, I'm sure some of you have the same experience, but like I've had to check my own perceptions about people. Not just people that are different races, but of all different experiences, right? My LGBTQ fam, like all people. I've had to think about what has the church taught me about people who live differently than me? And do I believe that? Does that fit my worldview as I expand, right? And so the conversation that I've been having is like, when you're asking, what can I do? I think the greatest thing that we can do, especially people in the church, people who are steeped in white church culture, especially, which is very, very, very narrow worldview, is expand the worldview. And how do we do that? You read. You watch things that you wouldn't normally watch. You watch things that make you uncomfortable. You read things that you don't have to agree with everything that you read to learn. I think sometimes the church makes us afraid to learn things because we're scared of falling into sin or falling away. Like, no, you have to trust that you're able to learn new things and integrate and find out, what do I believe? What is true for me? But if we only look at the super narrow worldview, we don't care about the experiences of people that aren't like us. And so I think reading and learning and challenging yourself and being uncomfortable is number one. And then number two, I think the further step is you actually have to walk with people that are not like you. So if all of your friends look like you, that's the problem. If you don't have any friends that have a different experience than you, that's the problem. Because then you don't care about issues that are not in your social sphere, right? So the reason that one of my closest friends reached out is because she cares about me, right? So even if you're not pricked by the news, you're gonna care when it's somebody that you love, a friend. So until we can really walk together, I don't think that we're gonna move in the ways that we need to towards social justice and towards action. So I'm a really relational therapist. I'm sure that comes out, but I think we have to walk together. And I think that one more gripe, and then I'll let you guys respond. But I feel like the other gripe about this is I feel like some of this is cultural, but I feel like the church has failed in lots of ways in regards to discipleship. And I think that's really been brought to the surface in light of COVID. And I think, Jalise, we've had some conversations about this, but, and I've spent a lot of time in different kinds of churches, big churches, small churches, mega churches, white churches, black churches, mixed churches, I've had lots of different experiences in that way. And I think different kinds of churches do it differently. But I think being removed from the church building shows us how much we crave community and connection. And is there a touch point when we're not meeting in person, right? So who can I call? If I don't go to church on a Sunday and get that community experience, who is my community that I can connect with on a deeper level that's going to hold space for me, right? So I think it's about relationship. I think it's about expanding the worldview. I think it's about being uncomfortable and allowing yourself to be uncomfortable, and then figuring out, what can I do with that discomfort?
Jaleese, feel free to
Yeah.
say I'm practicing listening. I am really practicing listening. I love what you all are saying. I appreciate you letting me be a part of this group, because you're speaking truth. You're not griping, Tiffany. You're speaking truth. And you know, both of you kind of said, okay, I'll stop or whatever. And I say, don't stop. You know, you both have said really wise things that I'm like, I need to take notes. I'm trying to just watch and listen, but thank you. I agree. So I attend a church. It's predominantly white. I'm a PK, pastor's kid, and my mom is the worship arts pastor of the church I attend. One of my best friends is the executive director and pastor of our community center. And so even today, I plan, which they'll hear this on the podcast maybe if they watch it, but I do plan to reach out and say, what are we going to say on Sunday? What are we going to do in our, you know, in our setting, in our service?
That made me cry.
Because we're not doing it well. In my life, I mean, my mom, my best friend are posting, are speaking out, but in our church setting, we are not. We're not reaching that mark, and we have a lot of power, Jazmyn. We have a lot of power and privilege in our community, and I'm sorry, because I know I haven't done all the things I could do.
Gosh, got me crying. Whew, okay, gotta get myself together.
But I love you all, even though we don't know each other, except for 45 minutes of knowing one another. I want to know you all better. I know Jaleese, but yeah, this is painful, and because I was trying to listen well, I was trying not to come up with what I was going to say. To be honest, I feel anxious, which you don't have to take care of, right? But it's nerve-wracking being a white person, because I know I'm going to say wrong things, and yet I speak out in spheres of influence. And I found myself the other day running something by a white friend of mine who is much more woke, I would say, than I am, but we're very much on the same page about racial reconciliation and our ignorance and our need to learn more and do more. And she was very kind to me in something that I said, but she was just like, yeah, basically, you're wrong though. Kind of just affirming my ignorance, and but being kind to me, which I would say to white people, say those stupid, ignorant things to your white friends who are practicing this work, who are reading, who know more, who are, engaging in relationships with people of color, with people who don't look like them, or maybe haven't lived the same kinds of lives as them, because they will have a little more energy to respond back to you. That you're right, Jazmyn, it's not your job to say all the things to us, white people who need to know. It's our job to do the work. There's plenty of stuff out there. And I know I'm trying to do that work and not always doing it well. But thank you both. And I say you both, Jaleese, thank you for what you've shared as well. But thanks for introducing me to your friends.
Well, I really appreciate your transparency and vulnerability, Annie. I think that's so powerful. And I sense your care and your leaning in to listen, which is so encouraging to me. And, you know, I just want to say that we are not looking for people to have perfect answers or to know exactly how to engage. I think I'm always just looking for people to care, you know? And so I feel like, you know, if I feel like you care and you say the wrong thing, that's okay, because we're all saying the wrong things. It's just about leaning in. And when you lean in, you might stumble and fall and mess some stuff up, but we're getting closer to meeting each other where we are. And so I don't want there to be this fear around, how do I have this perfect, beautiful conversation, or how do I show up with all the right words? For me, it's just show up, you know, like just show up and be a part of the conversation, and be willing to learn and be willing to be uncomfortable. And so I feel that and sense that from you, and I'm grateful that you would even share that, you know, you feel anxious and that you're trying to figure out what to do and working through it. And I appreciate that process and that honesty so much.
Yeah, I was gonna also say, I appreciate everything you said as well. But I do, again, because I always try to look at things from both sides. And Jaleese, she was there with me at Purdue when we were going to Purdue, and our church was predominantly white. And that is the place where I had so many good conversations. But I do think, even though I'm like, I don't feel like the ball is in my court when it comes to reaching audiences that I just don't have the privilege to be around or you know, be in. I do believe that it is my responsibility to hold those questions sacred when people that are not of color come to me. And I don't think that it's easy sometimes to find people, you know, like Tiffany or like Jaleese, you know, that will see the heart and be like, you know, I know you don't know everything, but I know your heart and I know you care, and let's have this conversation, let's have a dialogue. I do believe that there are a group of people that are so angry, they do not know how to love through that anger. Because it is hard. And that's why I say, you know, to my Black friends, like, let's be approachable. Because I think it's a whole movement of don't touch my hair and don't ask, you know. But I'm willing to put myself in, you know, in uncomfortable conversations where it's just like, yeah, touch my hair. So, and out in college, I would always have people ask, can you touch my hair? Yes. Sometimes inside it's like, okay, I don't want to feel like a pet. You know, there is that part of me where it's just like, but at the same time, I'm like, come with your questions. Ask me. And they would touch my hair and they say, wow, it's so soft. Because I'm like, I'm sure it probably just looks like a dry piece of tumbleweed. You don't know what it's going to feel like, you know, and being willing. And I think that it is a bit of a sacrifice, because sometimes I would hear really hurtful things. I remember I was in a clinical, and I had a partner that was in my clinical with me, and we were both coming from a Christian college. And in front of our supervisor at our site, she asked me the question. Mind you, we were getting graded on multiculturalism, multicultural competence. That was a big part of our grade. She asked me in front of our supervisors, Jazmyn, don't you think that it is the Black people that have taught white people to be violent? And I had to, Julie's, that how your eyes just got so big. My supervisors, they were just like, they're two white women. They were just like, what did you just say? That was the look on their face. Their eyes got so big. Now in that moment, I have to be professional and I have to know how I'm going to answer this question. And I'm sure if I would have came out of myself, they would have justified it. That was and again, she's coming from getting her master's degree from a Christian school to go out and practice counseling. And this is where her mindset is. Okay?
Breaking. It's outrageous.
And my response to her, I'm like, okay, you know, I can see where you're coming from, because she'd be like, the Black kids in these neighborhoods are this and that. And I'm like, when you think about a people that are only by here, the majority of them are here by force and have come here by force. They didn't ask to be here. You know, when you turn it around and look at the history of it all, who was violent to who first?
Yeah.
You know, historically, you know, there would. So, you know, that was just my question to her, but I asked it very kindly and very nicely, and we had a dialogue, and she walked away and was just like, I never thought about it like that. But I had to hold my tongue, because if I would have come out of myself, I would have proven to her exactly what she had already thought. That I'm violent, that I'm aggressive, that I'm combative, that I don't know how to have a dialogue, all of these things. So it's hard, but I do think, just as a believer, not even take Black women out of it, as a believer, that when people come and they're not always right, and because we all have biases, it's just that this one is just so magnified. This is on the forefront. But we all have biases. When I talk to my friends in the LGBTQ community, I have to say, I know I'm ignorant to things that y'all go through. Help me. And I think when we come to the table, like Annie was saying, like, Annie, you just touched me so much, because I think some people try so hard to say, I'm not racist. I understand. I had my friend is grieving right now because her pastor, who's a white woman, she was like, she wrote this really long post about, it was just a very arrogant nature. And she was like, I'm so devastated. So she texted her and she was like, what did you mean? Can you explain what you meant in this post? Maybe I'm not reading this correctly. And she's like, oh, I have a Black son-in-law. I totally understand. And before my friend even sent that text message, because she showed me the text before she sent it, I said, just by looking at her Facebook post, what I want you to pray is not whether or not you should send this, because everything you're saying is true. What I think you should pray is that your heart be prepared for her response. Because it will probably hurt you. And it did. She's like, oh, I totally, and I'm like, for her just to say, I totally understand, tells me you do not understand, nor do you care to understand. So Annie, just by you saying, I don't know, help me. And I think now, as Black people, that's why I feel like the ball is in my court. Because I can make the decision to show love, grace, and mercy, in which I will need someday with a different culture. I think that's my responsibility as just a woman of faith. Take out my color. So Annie, I thank you. And I know that these conversations have to be difficult. And I know what's sad is knowing that my white friends will try to have these conversations and they will be rejected depending on who they're talking to. They will get shut down and they will feel even more guilty. And so anyway, it's just all of us. But I will say, don't stop trying though. Don't stop engaging. Don't stop engaging, because you will find those that are willing, that see it shouldn't be Black people over everything or white people over. No.
Right. Sure.
It's how can we come together? So anyway, I know I'm talking a lot. I'm just super passionate about this subject. But Annie, I thank you. I do. It takes a lot of courage.
Thank you. No, thank you.
It takes a lot of courage to sit in a room like this, a virtual room like this, with 3 Black women and have this conversation. And I don't take it for granted, and I honor that, and I think it's sacred. And I truly
amen. Agreed.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Like everything that everybody said, I'm kind of glad that my phone was pausing and glitching. So that I could just let the world meet my friends because it's really good stuff. And Tiffany, when you were talking, and then Jazmyn, you kind of just echoed, and Annie, you also echoed about the need to care. Like that's something everybody can do today. Everybody can care today. Everybody can't go march into a big, powerful room, but everybody can care today. And the scriptures teach us that that perfect love casts out all fear. So when we take love, care for our brothers and sisters, it's going to cast out the fear so that we can draw nearer and nearer to one another. I think about my relationship with God. God is a very grand being. He made everything. When I think of God on the throne, I'm afraid. When I think the possibility that he may judge me and condemn me, I'm afraid. But I love him. And that is the thing that will draw me nearer to him. I will wash his feet with my hair and my tears. That is why people were able to come so close to such a powerful being. We are not like God. We are equals. We all entered the gospel at the same point. I heard that when I was in college and I thought it was amazing. We need to know where we entered the gospel to know where to move from. And we all, black and white and every other thing, enter the gospel as Gentiles. We enter the gospels adopted into this family of chosen Israelites that God had to bless the world. I mean, that was the very first promise before Israelite was a nation to Abraham, is that through your seed, the world will be blessed. I have always had an intention to bless the world, and he just used the Israelites to show himself and then invited us all into it. So we all enter as Gentiles, and that's a beautiful thing to know, like we're equals in that way. And that is why racism is against God. And that is why racism is anti-gospel, because it preaches something different than that.
Right.
And Tiffany, absolutely, that's exactly what I wanted you to say, to call out the church. You know, if I'm honest, I've been on the fence, like I am so tired of going to church on Sunday and not having authentic relationships and conversations and not seeing discipleship take place. And people leaving there the same way that they came because there was no chance. I like that you said it, like a touch. When church is not in session, who can I go to? Who can I talk to? Who can I explain that, hey, I've been reading about something different, or I've been having these feelings and I want to talk to somebody, but you can't. And I just don't think that the only option is therapy for everybody. Some people just want somebody to talk to. Godly, and shouldn't have to go there. Now, therapy, of course, we're all therapists. So, of course, therapy is there, but some people really just need an authentic touch and a chance to care and be cared for. And that is something everybody can do. And God will do an amazing thing through that. And that is kind of the idea of New Church. Really, it's just like, okay, what can we do today? That's not impossible. That's not impossible, that everybody doesn't have to feel anxious about, like, how do I go about saying the right thing? Because if you say the wrong thing to me, and I know you care, like y'all said earlier, I'm going to dismiss the wrongness for the intention, because your intention is good. And in the same way, even
Elise,
us,
I was just going to affirm you. You do that graciously.
Yeah.
With us white folk who say stupid things, and you say, wow, not really. And then we move on in our relationship.
But no, like I need to have the conversations too, because I say wrong things sometimes. I was not always woke. And, you know, I struggled. I went through a period of hating white people because I found out that I hated myself based on racism. And it troubled me. I was like, oh my God, all the things I've done to try to make sure I stayed out of the sun so my skin would stay lighter, and press and you know, perm my hair so it would be straight. And I love me now. I love me and I love Black people. And I'm moving into a place where, like Jazmyn was talking about, I am no longer vilifying white people, because God has lifted the veil to say, Jalise, if you jump into that little black and white fight, I promise you're going to be fighting forever, because the enemy is behind it,
Right.
with the same old tactics. So I love the conversations. I mean, conversations can display points of caring. Like, to enter into something unarmed means I must care. I'm coming into a place and I don't have anything prepared to say, just because I care. Annie, so I love what you do. And I love what all you said. And I love how our relationship has grown through the kind of conversations that we have had.
This is a really good conversation. Like, I'm excited to, like, I don't know. I just want to reach out. I was thinking about putting something out there that is just like, but I don't know how to do it anonymously, because I don't want them to be afraid of me. But I wanted to put, like, come with your questions. what are the questions that you have that you may be afraid to ask a person of color? Like, please, you know, just a safe space, creating a safe space. But yeah.
I think that's so needed. Should be doing
Yeah. Have you guys heard of Be the Bridge groups?
it.
Mm-mm.
Okay. It's, I'm gonna hold up the book. You heard of Tasha Morrison?
Tasha Morrison. I just heard her name.
Okay. So she started that, this idea of racial reconciliation types of groups of people where that at least the co-leader has to be a person of color, but the leader could be a white person. And then groups of people where people of color, but really specifically kind of white people can join to learn and share, and really the focus is on racial reconciliation. So those listening, I encourage people. I'm a part of one, have been for, it'll be a year this fall. And we are, I mean, that's what it allows for, it to create safety for those harder questions or embarrassing or, you know, potentially ignorant things that people may need to process through, and a safe space to do that. So.
So you said that it needs the leaders just need to be like basically not all non-people of color and then not all people of color, but like combined.
Yeah, so often, so with Be the Bridge groups, LaTasha Morrison formed one with a friend. I believe her friend was white, and we talked about, okay, could we get together with people of color and people who are white or white passing? And I say white passing because that's a term I've heard of from Assad, in her book. It's newer to me, but makes sense. And so just to create safety, like you're talking about, for conversations and really specifically focusing on race. So you're not trying not to get into the weeds of other issues, even though we identify, yes, those are important, but focusing on the racial reconciliation piece. But what they say is a lot of times, like, white people will want to form one, and the recommendation is find somebody who's a person of color in your life that you could ask to help you start that group.
That's good.
It's a bunch of white people, right? Which sometimes that happens. And I don't have enough knowledge of if that is a helpful thing or not, but for those groups, it very much is promoting, you know, a mix of people to come.
Yeah, that's good. It's a start. It's something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's good.
Am I visible now, guys?
You are.
Yeah, we
I
can hear
came
you
in
now.
right in time. That was awesome, Annie. I have not heard of that, so I'm glad that you put that there. And that is something I will definitely look into, because that's something I'm interested in. I was just trying to end the video literally right before it went out, and I said, yeah, thanks for being gracious to me with my sound. And Jazmyn was like, we can't hear you. And I was like, oh, oh wow, how ironic. So I'm glad it kept going and kept recording or whatever. And I'm glad that we're talking, and I really, really, really appreciate you guys. But I'm just so privileged and blessed to have each of you in my life. If nothing else, this time of being quarantined has revealed to me that I have a lot of special people in my life that I want to honor, and I just want to have conversations with, and I just want to love, and honestly, just share my relationships with other people, because I am so rich in relationship, and there are not a lot of people who can say that they are rich in relationship. So I really, really, really appreciate you guys. We could do a part 1 through 100, to be honest, because there's so much conversation to be had. Yeah, any closing thoughts that you all have?
Grateful for you, Jalise. So honored to have met the both of you, Jazmyn and Annie. Really, really happy to have been a part of this conversation, and I hope we can stay connected.
Yeah, same. That's what I was gonna say. Thank you, Jalise. I haven't really talked to Jalise in so long. You know, I really conversation with Jaleesa so long, but I just love that, like, as soon as I saw her, we were both like, hey. So that's awesome. I really thank you, Jaleesa, and just being willing to do this. And I thank you, Tiffany, and I thank you, Annie. There's just so much space to have more conversations like this, and it's so needed. But I think safe places, safe spaces. Everybody needs safe space in order for us to progress. And Jaleesa, you created a safe space, so I thank you. And again, thank you, Tiffany and Annie. I feel very honored to be among all of you. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I didn't really think about it, but Jaleesa, I think you should feel really good about yourself that coming on this, I already knew it would be a safe space, right? I didn't know Tiffany, I did not know Jazmyn, but I didn't think about it, but I trusted you with what you were inviting me to. So please know what that, hopefully you kind of feel what that says about you. And thank you, Jazmyn and Tiffany, for sharing part of your story and sharing your great grace and wisdom and love that is very clear and apparent. So yes, I'll probably text and say, okay, who belongs to who, you know, with numbers so that I can, yeah, absolutely reach out if that comes up for us. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. The last thought I had, and I just kind of will close with this, from everything that you all have said, is that white people and racism are totally different things. And that wisdom moving forward helps us to respond to acts of racism differently than we have been.
And Black people in slavery are two totally different things.
That's good. Black people in slavery are two totally different things. Absolutely. And when we realize that, and we really identify who the villains are and what the story actually is that's taking place, and we're being divided from our brothers and sisters, and that we're being less empowered in that, then we can start to move forward in confidence to make safe spaces and to have conversations and to love each other authentically and not to feel like we have to be the pet of the other or the educator of the other, but we can just literally be brother and sister, sister and sister, brother and brother with one another. That equality that Christ set in stone for the kingdom was there for a reason. And I'm just honored to have my sisters on this line with me. And for all the words that you said, that's really, it means a lot to me. So I love you guys so much. And thank you again. And I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
You can feel